The glitz and glamour of the entertainment industry often obscure a darker reality that unfolds far beneath the dazzling lights of Hollywood stages and international red carpets. For decades, the public has consumed the meticulously crafted personas of global superstars, celebrating their achievements, analyzing their fashion choices, and admiring their seemingly flawless lives. We watch them collect awards, deliver moving acceptance speeches, and command the attention of millions around the globe, assuming that their unmatched success shields them from the vulnerabilities and tragedies that affect ordinary people. However, behind the carefully curated image of immense success, deep financial wealth, and unmatched artistic freedom lies an entirely different world, one filled with hidden burdens, silent struggles, and deeply rooted trauma that the public rarely catches a glimpse of until many years later. The contrast between a star's public brilliance and their private agony highlights a profound truth about human nature and the price of fame, reminding us that no amount of accolades can truly erase the deep scars of past experiences. It forces us to reconsider what it means to be successful and raises critical questions about the hidden environments where young talent is nurtured and sometimes exploited. To understand this complex dynamic, one must look beyond the flashing cameras and the thunderous applause of the stadiums, diving deep into the quiet spaces where these individuals are left alone with their memories, their pain, and their ongoing battles for emotional survival. As we begin to explore this profound narrative, we invite you to become a permanent part of our community by subscribing to this channel, ensuring you never miss the deep stories and investigative reports that uncover the human truths behind the world's biggest headlines. By joining us, you help support the continuous exploration of stories that demand to be told with dignity, depth, and unwavering accuracy. The story we are examining today is not just about a single moment of vulnerability, but rather a larger, more systemic revelation that sent shockwaves through the global entertainment landscape when it first came to light. It involves an unprecedented collaboration between major figures in the media world, designed specifically to peel back the layers of stigma surrounding mental health and emotional suffering. When a high-profile documentary series was launched on a prominent streaming platform, audiences expected standard celebrity interviews filled with predictable anecdotes and promotional talking points. Instead, they were met with an intense, unfiltered honesty that completely redefined how we view the personal costs of creative ambition. The project itself was born out of a desire to create a safe space for public figures to discuss the heaviest burdens they carry, bridging the gap between the perceived perfection of celebrity culture and the harsh realities of psychological trauma. The atmosphere created within this particular media project was uniquely intense, characterized by a quiet, reverent focus that allowed the participants to speak without fear of judgment or sensationalism. It was within this specific, highly charged creative environment that one of the most iconic musical and cinematic figures of the 21st century decided to break her silence in a way she had never done before, offering a narrative so raw and painful that it instantly shifted the cultural conversation surrounding trauma, survival, and the dark underbelly of artistic industries. To fully appreciate the weight of these revelations, one must visualize the setting of this historic broadcast, where the interviewer and the subject engaged in a dialogue that felt less like a traditional media appearance and more like a profound, therapeutic confession. The series sought to explore the unseen battles that individuals fight within their own minds, emphasizing that mental health struggles do not discriminate based on wealth, status, or global recognition. As the episode commenced, the tone was immediately set as something remarkably solemn, a departure from the typical high-energy entertainment news formats that audiences are accustomed to. The viewer was invited to witness an intimate portrait of a woman who had conquered the music charts, won prestigious acting accolades, and influenced global fashion, yet was still grappling with events that occurred long before her name became a household staple. The narrative structure of the opening segment was designed to build a deep sense of atmosphere, slowly guiding the audience away from the distraction of the star's immense fame and directing their focus entirely onto her humanity. This deliberate pacing allowed the underlying tension to mount, signaling to the viewer that what was about to be shared would demand complete attention and a deep level of empathy, setting the stage for a disclosure that would reverberate far beyond the boundaries of the streaming television network. The silence was finally broken when the world-renowned artist, recognized globally as Lady Gaga, sat down to deliver a testimony that would forever alter the public's understanding of her early years in the music business. Speaking with an extraordinary level of emotional transparency during the premiere episode of the documentary series spearheaded by Prince Harry and Oprah Winfrey, titled The Me You Can't See, the singer pulled back the curtain on a horrifying chapter of her past. She revealed that when she was just 19 years old, an age when most young artists are filled with bright eyes, immense hope, and an eagerness to please those in positions of authority, she became the victim of a brutal sexual assault. The perpetrator was an unnamed music producer, an individual who wielded immense power over her career, her creative future, and her day-to-day life within the highly competitive music industry. In an incredibly raw, candid, and deeply painful moment of reflection, Lady Gaga described the absolute nightmare of the situation, detailing how this trusted figure in the studio exploited his position of dominance to violate her. The details she shared were chilling as she recalled the devastating reality of being raped and subsequently dropped off pregnant on a street corner, left entirely alone to deal with the immediate physical and psychological aftermath of a monstrous act. This horrific event marked the beginning of a prolonged period of intense trauma, shattering her sense of safety and plunging her into a dark, confusing world where the boundaries of her own body and mind felt permanently compromised. The immediate aftermath of the assault was characterized by an overwhelming sense of isolation and terror that manifested in severe physical and psychological symptoms. For weeks and months following the incident, the young singer experienced a profound disconnect from reality, a state of being that eventually culminated in a full-scale health crisis. She vividly recalled the confusion of that period, remembering a specific instance when she had to go to a medical hospital due to overwhelming, unyielding physical pain that racked her entire body. Expecting a medical doctor to examine her physical injuries and provide standard treatment, she was instead met with a shock when a psychiatrist walked into the examination room. This unexpected intervention highlighted the deep, invisible connection between her psychological trauma and her physical agony, as her mind was reacting violently to the abuse she had suffered. Lady Gaga explained to the viewers that she suffered what she described as a total psychotic break, an emotional and mental collapse so severe that for a couple of years afterward she was simply not the same person. The psychological damage completely altered her perception of reality, her relationship with herself, and her ability to function in daily life, creating a permanent line in her history between the girl she was before the assault and the survivor she was forced to become. The lingering effects of this trauma meant that for a very long time, any physical pain she experienced would instantly trigger the exact same terrifying sensations and emotional dread that she felt immediately after she was raped, trapping her in a continuous loop of relived suffering. As the years progressed and her global fame skyrocketed, the hidden scars of this encounter continued to dictate much of her internal life. leading her to adopt highly destructive coping mechanisms in an effort to manage the constant emotional distress. During the broadcast, Lady Gaga spoke with absolute honesty about her history of self-harm, describing it as an incredibly unhealthy and counterproductive method of trying to deal with an invisible, all-consuming ache. She addressed the audience directly, questioning the logic behind these actions and explaining the profound realization that hurting oneself physically, whether by cutting or throwing oneself against a wall, only serves to amplify the misery rather than relieve it. She noted that in moments of deep despair, a survivor often turns to self-harm because they desperately want to make their internal agony visible to the outside world, hoping that by showing someone tangible proof of their pain, they might finally receive the understanding and help they need. However, she emphasized that this path is ultimately a dead end that fails to provide true comfort, instead plunging the individual deeper into a cycle of shame, physical damage, and emotional isolation that resolves absolutely nothing, despite the immense gravity of the details she disclosed. The narrative presented by the pop icon was not entirely devoid of light, as she purposefully chose to steer the conversation toward a message of resilience, recovery, and eventual redemption. As the discussion drew to a close, the star made a deliberate effort to end her testimony on a distinctly hopeful note, signaling to millions of viewers worldwide that survival is possible even after the most devastating betrayings. She shared that in recent years, through intensive therapy, deep introspection, and a commitment to her own well-being, she has begun to discover and utilize a wide variety of effective strategies designed to pull herself out of the darkest corners of her mind. This healing process did not happen overnight. Rather, it was a slow, agonizingly gradual transformation that required immense patience and courage. She explained that it all started to slowly change when she began to understand the mechanics of her trauma, allowing her to systematically dismantle the triggers that had held her captive for over a decade. By sharing this journey of gradual recovery on a major global platform, she sought to transform her private tragedy into a public source of inspiration, demonstrating that while the scars of sexual violence may never fully disappear, they do not have to define the limits of a person's future, happiness, or capacity to achieve extraordinary things in the world. The willingness of an artist of this magnitude to share her darkest chapters on a global platform like Apple TV+ highlights a massive shift in how society addresses the intersection of celebrity, trauma, and mental health. This groundbreaking series, titled The Me You Can't See, created an unprecedented framework for these vital conversations, allowing the world to see the deeply human side of individuals who are usually viewed through the distorting lens of fame. For Lady Gaga, born Stefani Angelina Germanotta, this public disclosure was not an isolated incident, but rather the culmination of a long, courageous history of advocacy and creative expression dedicated to supporting survivors of sexual violence. Born and raised in New York City, she climbed the ranks of the music industry through sheer determination, classical piano training, and an unforgettable theatrical style, releasing her debut album, The Fame, in 2008, which instantly transformed her into a global pop cultural phenomenon. Yet, even as her career exploded with chart-topping hits, elaborate world tours, and historic award wins, she was quietly carrying the immense psychological weight of the assault she suffered at 19, an experience that would permanently shape her artistic identity and her philanthropic mission. Her creative output frequently mirrored this internal battle, serving as both a personal catharsis and a lifeline for millions of fans worldwide who found solace in her messages of self-acceptance and resilience. One of the most significant milestones in her journey as an advocate occurred when she co-wrote the powerful anthem titled "Till It Happens to You," a song specifically crafted for the 2015 documentary film The Hunting Ground, which investigated the rampant issue of sexual assault on college campuses. The track was a devastatingly accurate depiction of the isolation felt by survivors, conveying the profound truth that one cannot truly understand the depth of such pain until they have experienced it firsthand. The impact of the song reached its peak during the 88th Academy Awards in 2016, where Lady Gaga delivered an unforgettable, emotionally charged performance that stands as one of the most significant moments in television history. Towards the end of the song, she was joined on stage by dozens of real-life survivors of sexual abuse, all holding hands with words of defiance and survival written across their arms. A visual demonstration of solidarity that moved the star-studded audience to tears and brought global awareness to a cause that had long been shrouded in silence and shame. Through this historic performance, she demonstrated that art could be utilized as an effective weapon against institutional complacency. Leveraging her immense privilege to elevate the voices of those who had been systematically ignored by society, the broader context of her life reveals an individual who has consistently chosen to weaponize her vulnerability for the greater good. Establishing the Born This Way Foundation in 2012 alongside her mother, Stefani Germanotta. The foundation was built with the explicit goal of supporting the wellness of young people and empowering them to create a kinder, braver world, focusing heavily on mental health resources, community programming, and scientific research. By tackling issues like bullying, depression, and the unique challenges faced by marginalized communities, particularly LGBTQ youth, she turned her personal suffering into a structured, well-funded apparatus for social change. Her work proved that true healing often involves looking outward, creating the very support systems that she lacked when she was a terrified 19-year-old girl left on a street corner. This legacy of activism adds a profound layer of meaning to her revelations in the documentary series, showing that her openness was not for sensationalism, but a deliberate continuation of her life's work to dismantle the structures that allow abusers to operate with impunity within creative fields. For anyone currently navigating the painful aftermath of trauma, sexual violence, or severe emotional distress, it is absolutely vital to understand that you do not have to carry this immense weight in total isolation, as there are dedicated professional resources available 24 hours a day to provide confidential support, guidance, and safety. In the United States, individuals who have experienced sexual assault can reach out directly to the National Sexual Assault Hotline by calling 1-800-656-HOPE, an invaluable resource that automatically and securely routes the caller to their nearest local sexual assault service provider, ensuring immediate access to trained advocates who understand the complexities of recovery. Additionally, those seeking local assistance can utilize online search tools to find specialized centers in their immediate geographic area. If you or someone you know is experiencing a severe mental health crisis, overwhelming depression, or thoughts of self-harm, immediate intervention is available through the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255, where compassionate professionals are ready to assist. For individuals residing outside the United States, an extensive network of international suicide prevention helplines can be accessed globally by visiting the website befrienders.org, which connects people in distress with local support systems across various countries. Furthermore, specific populations can find targeted, culturally competent care. The Trevor Project, an organization dedicated to providing crisis intervention and suicide prevention resources for LGBTQ youth, can be reached by dialing 1-866-488-7386. For those who prefer communicating via text rather than speaking over the phone, the Crisis Text Line offers free, completely anonymous, 24/7 crisis support in both the United States and the United Kingdom, which can be initiated simply by texting the word TOC to 741741. These organizations exist to ensure that no individual is forced to walk through the darkness alone, providing a safe harbor and a path toward the same slow, beautiful process of healing